Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. We had a full sign up, so there might be one or two people trickling in at the end. It's tough with free tickets, you never know. But good to see everybody. My name's Molly Mixa. I'm the Executive Director at London Cycle Link. If you've not been to Squeaky Wheel 3.0 before today, welcome. This is our new space. Still a work in progress and on wheels largely, which gives us lots of nice space for workshopping. Happy to introduce two Davids, who are both expert lawyers in cycling law. This is our own David Isaac, who's a board member with London Cycle Link and a lawyer in London, and he will take it away from here.
All right. Thank you. So my name is David. I am a lawyer here in London, and this is Dave. He is a lawyer in Toronto, Hamilton, very recently, opened an office there as well. Dave is a passionate and dedicated cyclist and advocate for cyclists. He's the founder of the Biking Lawyer, which is a firm that specializes in helping cyclists. He is also heavily involved in the Bike Brigade, which is a really cool organization that helps deliver food to vulnerable people. We are very lucky to have Dave here with us today. So Dave's going to tell us a little bit about what our rights are as cyclists.
Thanks. And I follow Dave on Twitter, and he's got really great takes on the law and as it relates to cyclists. So please correct me if I'm messing up.
I defer to you.
Appreciate it. So stoked to be here in London. I obviously follow what everybody's doing down here and some of the great advocacy and movement building you all are doing. I lived here from 2001 to 2006, 2007, if I'm honest, with the victory lap I took at university. And I cycled here, and it looks nothing like it does now in many ways. So kudos to everybody involved in making those safety changes around here. I used to go by bike from Wonderland in Oxford to Western, and it was harrowing. Yeah, and I'm an idiot, and I would do it with headphones on. So I have learned a lot since then, but have really fond memories. And actually ran a mountain bike camp behind Western 2 summers in a row for international students. Mountain bike camp is loose, but have been down in Toronto since, and 2018 started really focusing on cycling law because I was commuting into my law job every day and seeing what we were up against. Just would bike down the street and be like, well, that was nuts. And so wanted to learn my rights. And that kind of spiraled into building a personal injury law practice to help cyclists who are injured. And while we do that for individual people, a big part of what we do is community safety, awareness, and prevention. So people know their rights and know what to do if the unfortunate occurs, and also know how to advocate for each other. So the presentation today is one we do across the province from Owen Sound to Ottawa. And at the end of it, we'll do some Q&A, and I would love to hear some of the challenges you all are facing, how you're all dealing with it, because we can find intersections between our communities and apply best practices in all areas of the province. So on our website is a blog, and it's got tons of rules of the road and how to deal with police if you're pulled over. There's all that kind of stuff is there. Today is just about if the unfortunate occurs, what do you do? And so without further ramblings, I'll get to that, I guess. And this presentation is built on my own personal experience, being hit in a painted bike lane. Not dissimilar from that, although there's a lot more green there. Though I don't think that would have helped me, and that of our clients as well. So crashes happen. There's three main things we want you to do if it does occur, or if you witness it happening to somebody else. Number one is, if you can, ground yourself and see if you can get off the road to safety. Take a breath, assess your injuries as best you can, and make a determination if A, you can get off by yourself, B, you need some help to get off from bystanders, or C, if you need people around you to block traffic because you can't move or you shouldn't. This is critical. Get safe. That's the most important thing. And tied in with that is, well, I'll get to that next part. If you are able to get safe, the sort of 2 and 3 are similarly important, but number 2 we suggest is, because of the time urgency of some of this stuff, is take pictures and gather information. Take a picture as soon as you can of the car that hit you, specifically the license plate. Start taking pictures of any damage to the vehicle. Start taking pictures of the driver and his driver's license and his insurance card if he gives it to you, which he has to under the Highway Traffic Act. But this is how the law applies, or is written, and how it applies is different. And so we'll get to that towards the end. Take pictures of the surrounding area. We have cases where at an intersection, a cyclist has gotten to a crash having to navigate around a car parked right at the intersection. And that has caused a collision. And so taking a picture of that no parking sign right there, and that person is illegally parked, causing you to have to go into a dangerous space to get around them, is pretty critical down the road. Here's an interesting, so in my crash, I did some things right and I did some things wrong, okay? It's about 2019 that this happened. I got hit, a driver made a right-hand turn across my bike lane without indicating, and I went right into him and hit the ground. Took some deep breaths and was able to get off the road, and right away started taking pictures. And I took probably the most important picture I took was my handlebar had left a big black mark down the back end of his car before the back tire. And then we exchanged information, and I made a mistake, and I'll tell you about that later. But the good thing is I got that picture, because years later, I also broke my wrist and my elbow. And so years later, I had started a legal claim with another lawyer, because it's never good to represent yourself. And we went to court, and that driver said, no, the crash didn't really happen like that. We were both stopped. Dave just bumped into my car, and nothing really happened. And he showed pictures of his car at the police station the next day. And the back bumper was crystal clear. And my lawyer pulled out my pictures, and the case quickly settled because that guy was a liar. And it resolved in my favor. So I did that right, took pictures. Really important to do that. The next thing, so we've got get safe, take pictures and gather information. That includes getting witnesses. You know, if someone's got a business card, take a picture of their business card. Get them to text you on scene so you have their contact information. Really important. If it's a hit and run scenario, check the buildings around you. If the driver is sped off and you didn't get a license plate to see, like if I'm looking at this intersection here, I'm seeing a camera right there. There's probably another one on that building. And you all may have one going this way. So check the surrounding areas to see where are these cameras. Maybe up the block where the person proceeded, there's a real good one. Get that information and give it to authorities. Getting a license plate is critical. Not only will it, can I swear on camera? Maybe I won't. Not only will it'll get that jerk later potentially, but the insurance implications are important. more on that on our blog. We won't get into it today. Light on the law, more on practical. Okay. So the third thing is call authorities down there and seek medical attention. I did not call authorities down there. I wrongfully assumed, well, I'll just report it later and they'll do an investigation and I'll get justice. Wrong. And also, I had just been through a major recovery unrelated to cycling. I did not want to be injured. And with the adrenaline and shock pumping through my system, I made the good decision to take a picture of his license plate, get his contact information, and take that picture of that guy's car with my black mark on my bike. But then I biked home. And I biked home with that broken wrist and elbow. And it was about 5 in the morning when the shock wore off, and I realized I needed to go to the hospital. So that was dumb. I could have really injured myself and made it worse. People always say, well, I didn't want to wait in the emergency room for 6 hours. And so my retort to that is, okay, fine. But you got to go, maybe it starts hurting in the night. So then the next day you got to go to your family doctor. Book an appointment for that. That's probably an hour, hour and a half. The family doctor is not going to be able to diagnose you with a fractured elbow there, so you're going to have to go to the ultrasound and x-ray clinic. And that's not booked until 2 days from now, so you got to wait for that, and that's another 2 hours there. And they can't give you the diagnosis on scene, so then you got to go back to your family doctor. And you've done this whole rigmarole when you could have just gone to the ER. And so that's important. Another thing is, I always hear, well, I didn't want to incur the ambulance fee. Fair. The thing about that is that whether you're at fault or not, that ambulance fee will be covered by your own car insurance, funny story, I'll tell you later, or the driver's car insurance. So go take the ambulance, get the bill, send it to the insurance company. Better to get checked out by a professional and know what your injuries are, or that you've got a clean bill of health. You'd rather know that you've just got some aches and pains and that there's not a hairline fracture in there somewhere. Really critical, especially with head injuries. If you feel any sort of concussion kind of symptoms, even if you're wearing a helmet, get in there. We cannot self-diagnose, most of us. We're not doctors, and even in shock, a doctor probably shouldn't assess themselves. So go in there and get it reported. And it's important to report to authorities for ambulance and police down there for two, like, obviously there's your individual needs, right? But then there's our collective safety as well. And each of these things need to be reported because it creates a data set and a data point that cycling advocacy organizations will use to say, this intersection is effed. You need to fix it. There's been 32 collisions here in the last 2 months. And that is, and those arguments are compelling when based on data, and that's how changes are made. So report it. Even if you think it's minor, report it. Get the data point. It'll help you and your community later down the road. Okay? Get safe.
Quick question, not sure if you're going here as well. Does it help your case if you go to the emergency or seek emergency health services right away as well?
Yes and no. Do it for sure. If you go there and you're found out to have scrapes and whiplash or something like that, that resolves a couple weeks later. Whether or not you went to the ER, you can't pursue a claim in Ontario if you have minor injuries, which we'll get to. Sorry, but was there a follow-up? Yeah. Okay. But thank you. The segue to then is to what happens, not in the immediate aftermath, but what are the next steps you take as a cyclist? And there's two roads you go down if you've been in a collision in Ontario with a motor vehicle. And the first one is one that I was unfamiliar with, and I find most cyclists are unfamiliar with. It's the no-fault accident benefits regime, okay? This is insurance that kicks in right away with very little questions asked about whose fault it was, to provide you with medical benefits, lost income up to a maximum of $400 a week, and other caregiver benefits should you need them. The idea being to get you back on the road to recovery so you don't have to pursue a lawsuit. So funny enough, if you have car insurance but you were hit on your bicycle by some driver through an absolute reckless driving, totally at fault, you would apply to your car insurance actually. The driver who hit me broke the rules, but for 3 years my car insurance, even though I wasn't driving at the time, paid out my physiotherapy and psychological therapy benefits as well, up to about 30 grand. So this is really important to know about these accident benefits. Sure.
Does that affect your premiums?
No, it's a no-fault system. So it's part of this grand bargain, so that takes away the right to sue from vulnerable road users in a lot of situations, which I'll get to. Even if you have minor injuries, which is the terminology they use, which is sprains, strains, and whiplash kind of thing, access these benefits. You get up to $3,500 in physio and things like that. And so it gets you back on the bike, and maybe you enjoy the rest of your summer. Better to be active in your treatment. If you have more serious injuries, like myself, you get access to up to $65,000 in medical benefits. And if you're what they call catastrophically impaired, it's $1 million in care for your life. One thing I kind of want to like put an underline here is that a lot of cyclists that we see injured, because of the violence of the situation, like being that vulnerable and hit by 2,000 pounds of motorized steel, is really traumatic. So when the initial aches and pains start to wear off, be mindful and report to your doctor about how you're feeling psychologically. When I got back on the bike, even though I was wearing a wrist brace, I found I was angry at every intersection. I was scared a lot, and just like my relationship with cycling had changed markedly. So I sought help from a trauma counselor that I had for something else, but like thankfully I knew that was there. And we worked on ways to minimize that stress. And so I would bike to work at non-rush hour. I would like take a 3-minute longer route on side streets. Things like this got me back on the bike in a way that I was able to find enjoyment from it again. That's accident benefits. Access them, even if you suffer only minor injuries. The next thing is, hey Ben.
If people don't have car insurance, is tenant and homeowner insurance also covering that or no?
Sorry, great question, and I skipped over that. It's not all up here, I guess. So if you don't have car insurance, then it's the driver's insurance that kicks in. Even if you were at fault, like even if you plowed through a stop sign and hit the guy's car, but if you're injured, you can still apply for these accident benefits. And it's important.
Sorry, what are they called again?
Accident benefits.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably purposely confusing, but we have an article on it, but David knows a ton about this too. The resources are out there should you need to access them. I mean, even if you have minor injuries, we'd happily take a phone call and explain to you how it works, kind of thing. In a hit and run scenario, you're a cyclist without car insurance, the driver peels off, what do? No insurance. Thankfully, the government of Ontario has a motor vehicle accident claims fund, which provides these same accident benefits to people involved in a hit and run or by a driver that was driving without insurance. To access those, it's critical that you've reported to police and gone to the ER within 24 hours. So reporting made more important. So that's accident benefits. The next road you go down I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, is, did I press start on this thing? I did not. The next road you go down is where you would sue the negligent driver. So if they were at fault for causing you harm and injury, then you can bring a lawsuit for losses above and beyond the accident benefits medical care that you require. Pain and suffering, so you have to, you work with your hands and you're gonna have to retire from work 5 years early. That 5 years extra income and all these kind of things, as well as care, medical care above and beyond the $65K that's available to you. That's all accessible through the courts. It's a long process, but it's there. And in any case, we always recommend, as like sort of the thing to do, is personal injury lawyers like myself and David, we take consultation calls. So just call, get a breakdown. No one's going to advance a case if there isn't one. It's not a good use of your time or ours. Just get your rights explained to you, okay? I said the law and how it applies differs. It differs based on gender, race, religion, class, socioeconomic position, how these systems you interact with, interact back with you will change based on those. Police, medical, insurance, and even the justice system. So we've talked to clients of ours on how to, like, obviously I'm in a very privileged position, so I can interact with this system in ways that some people cannot. So our clients have suggested the buddy system when dealing with police, and in the ER. First of all, you're in shock. You may not be in the right headspace to give a statement. You may not be in the right headspace to advocate for yourself at the hospital. So have a buddy down there, family member or a friend, to be an extra set of eyes and an advocate for you. With insurance companies, get a lawyer involved to interact. They will try all manner of things not to pay you for broken helmet or physiotherapy. Everything they'll try, and so get someone to advocate for you. That's about it. I want you to know what to do immediately afterwards, and then sort of how to protect yourself over the long term. And my favorite part of the presentation is now, when David and I can answer questions. We talk about cameras, you know, how to report a dangerous driver who swerved at you, all this stuff.
Well, first, let's have a big round of applause. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming here and taking the time to inform us all about what we can do to keep ourselves safe out there.